So today we are going to discuss these two concepts and see how they interlace and how we can use Webquest activities for task-based teaching. Okay, but before we start, I'd like to ask all of you a question. Have you ever heard of Webquests before, or have you used them in your teaching or in your career somehow? Okay, Webquests. No, okay. Okay. Alan looked into them about 15 years ago. Yes, we'll discuss this too. Oh, okay, perfect, Rosita. Then we look forward to your reflections on how you use them. So please feel free to comment in the chat box, okay? Okay, so, but first let's discuss task-based teaching. Are you using task-based activities in your teaching? Yes, sure you do. Okay, so if students have to learn the use of real language when communicating, then they need to be exposed to real language too, right? So this is where we start thinking about task-based activities and how we can incorporate them into our teaching. So task-based activities can help students by placing them into real-life situations and situations where communication is essential for doing a specific task. So let's discuss what a task is. So any suggestions? So how do you understand this term, task? Okay, so what? Please type in the chat box what it is, a task. Based on daily life, exactly. Yeah, so it's easier if you think of a situation and then think of all kinds of communication that take place in that situation. Yes, friend, like shopping, exactly. So think about many situations in which you find yourself over a given day, for instance, right? So speaking to family members over breakfast, getting gas for the car on your way to work, listening to the radio, and greeting your co-workers on the way to the building, and so on. So all these small daily life activities can be considered language tasks if we talk about the teaching. Okay, yeah, thank you for your comments. And this list of tasks can go on, and everything will depend. The task that you decide to choose for your learners, for your students, will depend on their syllabi level, right? On the context you're teaching, and so on. Tasks are also used in the communicative language teaching. However, they normally focus on a particular function, language function or language form. And while in task-based lesson, the focus is on task completion instead of the language used in that process. So the focus on the language comes at the end after completing the task. And also a common misunderstanding of task-based instruction is that it necessarily involves oral communication. But tasks can be developed, can develop any of the 4 language skills. So what are the advantages of the task-based teaching, and why so many teachers choose this direction when they work with language learners. First of all, task-based learning is useful for moving the focus of the learning process from the teacher to the student, so it's learner-focused. And thus, a task is helpful in meeting the immediate needs of particular learners, and it provides a framework for creating classes, creating lessons that are interesting and that can address students' needs. Also, it gives the learner a different way of understanding the language. Not as the language becomes a tool instead of the goal. So learners do not learn particular language forms and functions. They learn how to use the language to complete this or that task. And last but not least, task-based teaching takes teaching from abstract knowledge to real-life application, which is also very important when we talk about adult learning and adult teaching. Okay? So you might be wondering how this is connected to Webquest. So let's discuss first what a quest is. So please give me a definition of a quest. So how do you understand this word? What a quest is for you? Journey to goal. Okay, a journey. Searching for something in particular. Perfect, thank you. Search for information on the internet to answer questions on a task. Perfect, Ellen. Thank you for the definition of a web quest. So steps to obtain a goal. Yeah, so all the things that you've mentioned are related to the quest. And my next question would be what a web quest is, but Ellen has just answered it. So web quest, it's your journey on the web, and it's on the scale of adult teaching, of adult task-based learning. If we talk about task-based activities today, Webquest can be considered as a pre-task activity. So this is the research that learners need to do in order to complete the task itself. So it's their journey to their goal. But this journey happens online. Okay. This model, the Webquest model, was developed by Bernie Dodge and Tom March at San Diego State University in February 1995. Initially, they defined a Webquest as an inquiry-oriented activity in which some or all of the information that learners interact with comes from resources on the internet. This is the link to their initial work, so if you're interested, you can read it later and see and get acquainted with their main principles, with their ideas. So basically, web quests are short-term or long-term projects in which a large percentage of the material comes from the internet. Basically, a learner goes online and uses the resources available out there to complete certain tasks. In his work, some thoughts about web quests, the work that I have just mentioned, Bernie Dodge highlighted 6 components of a web quest. So it should start with an introduction that sets and the introduction sets the stage and provides some background information. Then comes the task, and the task should be doable and interesting for learners. The next step is a set of information sources needed to complete the task. Usually in the traditional understanding of the web quest, these resources are predefined by the teacher. So it's the teacher who decides what resources the learner should use to complete this or that task. After that, a description of the process the learners should go through is given, and so basically this is the description of their main steps in order to complete the task. Also, they suggest that some guidance should be provided on how to organize the information acquired. So web quests are not just about reading the information, it's about processing the information acquired. So web quests should learners need their critical thinking skills in order to complete the web quest. So they should know how to analyze the information that they've just read and how to process it so that to complete the task. And finally, the web quest. To wrap up the web quest, a conclusion should be given, and it should bring closure to the quest and remind learners about what they've learned and perhaps encourage them to use this knowledge and these skills in their real life, and so on. The structure was tweaked a little bit later. Another component, evaluation, was added to the Webquest schema. So basically, under evaluation, they mean the rubrics. So you give these rubrics to your learners for them to evaluate themselves, whether they completed the task or not, and also for the teacher to see their progress. Okay, and this structure, although it's unofficially recognized as the main schema for these activities for the web quest, it should be taken as a basic guideline. And you should design your web quests to suit the needs and learning style of your students. Okay, so here I have two sample web quests for you to have a look at them. So how they look like. Hi, welcome to the session. And the first web quest is literally one of the first web quests developed. It was developed by Bernie Dodge himself, and you can have a look. If you click on this link, you'll be able to see how it was structured. The links that are there, the majority of the links are not working right now because it was developed 19 years ago, but still you can see the main idea behind the web quest term. And the second web quest, it's not related to the EL, either to the EL or ESL field. I just give you this link for you to understand how teachers, what teachers do, how they create their web quests. Okay, so you have 1 minute to explore these two links, and once you're done, please come back to our webinar page and let me know, okay, and share your impressions. Okay, so please click on these two links, explore sample web quests that I found for you, and then come back and share your impressions and your comments with your peers in the chat box. And please let me know if you're done. Okay, and we have first comment from Fran. Yes, lots of text. Okay, and the second was an interesting task. Okay, thank you for your comments, Fran. It's like a blog that one can develop and assign his learner. Yes, we will discuss tools that you can use to develop your Webquest a little bit later. But basically, you can develop, you can use any platform you want to develop your Webquest, whether blog or social network. Okay, so the first one was, we have a comment from Alan that the first one involved face-to-face work as a team, so it was blended, and the second one was online only. Okay, great. Before we continue, I'd like to remind you that this model was introduced in 1995, 19 years ago, and it was a brilliant idea ahead of its time. Just imagine that, think about the internet in 1995, right? So limited resources were available online. The internet was not interactive. It was a repository of texts mainly and images. No relevancy. Okay, can everyone hear me? Okay, perfect. Okay, so no relevancy-based search engines invented yet, and there was a search engine, Lycus, and it had a catalog of 54,000 documents for you to have an idea whether it was a lot or not. So nowadays we have trillions and trillions of pages online. There was also another web search system in Seek, and it was a pay-for-use service. And Sergey Brin and Larry Page, founders of Google, haven't even met yet. So you can imagine that it was quite challenging to look for resources and to create a Webquest back in 1995. 19 years is enough time for the web paradigm to shift, and even for the generation of digital natives to grow up. And the Webquest model has been affected by this paradigm shift, and the main component that was affected was the process. So what learners need to do in order to complete the task. So Webquests are supposed to be built around resources that are pre-selected by the teacher. And the main idea behind is that students spend their time using the information, not looking for it. In 1995, it was a sound idea, right? Because probably students would have to spend hours searching for necessary information. At the same time, the rapid development and adoption of digital technologies is changing the way we work and communicate, and we cannot learn and live according to the principles of 1995. So have you heard of Digital Canada 150? No? Okay, so this is the link for you to explore this resource after the webinar. But basically, it's a plan to guide Canada's digital future. So it sets out a vision of what Canada can achieve by the time of its 150th anniversary and beyond. And there they have the definition of digital skills And I want to draw your attention to this. So digital skills are defined as the ability to locate, and I want to highlight this word, to locate and organize, understand, evaluate, create and share information using digital technology. This skill of locating the information is vitally important nowadays, and we cannot just close our eyes and give our learners pre-selected resources, right? So, because nowadays society has evolved beyond the initial definition of a web quest. People know that the internet is inquiry-based already, and a web quest in its traditional understanding might be frustrating for your learners because they are limited to certain space rather than the ability to explore whatever they want through web searches. So we can use the internet as a whole as a resource for completion of the tasks required, instead of just giving the links pre-selected by the instructor. Besides, a skill to locate, gather, and organize information using appropriate technology is considered to be a fundamental employability skills. According to the Conference Board of Canada document, you can click on this link and read it a little bit later. And so by modifying the Webquest model, you will not just improve your learners' digital skills, you will also improve their employability skills and thus help them settle and integrate into the Canadian society better. And besides, in this case, Webquests will help students become better learners by increasing their autonomy. And by the way, continuous learning is another 21st century employability skill. So lots of benefits to give your learners a little bit more freedom. So instead of pre-selecting the resources, let your learner be the boss, right? So help your learner. And as an instructor, you can help your learner be the boss of his or her own learning. You can help. You can do it by helping him or her master the web search skills. So everyone can admit that Google is the most popular search engine on the web. But many people do not realize the full extent of what they can do with Google as a search engine. Oh, sorry, Fran, I haven't seen your comment. Yes, exactly. So when we talk about the digital skills, the digital citizenship, both learners and instructors are learners. So let's discuss how we can use the capabilities of Google search and how we can to enhance the digital skill of locating the information. So you can easily narrow down your search, and you can teach your learners to do that by adding symbols and words to your search query. These symbols are called operators, and you will get more precise results, and you will get the results that you will get after you use these operators will differ a lot from the results if you just type in generic search terms. So for instance, if you enclose the term or terms inside of quotation marks, like in my first example, you will find, you will look for exact matches on for the exact matches. So if you just type in Webquest and task-based teaching without quotation marks, you will get lots of resources on Webquest, on task-based teaching, but they might not be necessarily about both concepts. But if you enclose this phrase in the quotation marks, you will get the results. Your results will be, the top results will be about this webinar. Okay? And this is also might be helpful if you're looking for famous quotation or for lyrics of lyrics to a song and so on. Another operator that you can use is a minus sign. So if you add this minus sign, you will exclude specific word from your web search. If you also include cite and semicolon, you can exclude the particular website from your web searches. For example, if you type in this phrase into the Google, you will get your results will include various resources on Webquest, except for the resources located on this website. You can also try the file type operator if you're looking for a specific file format. For instance, you can look for PDFs, Word documents, images, MP3 files, and so on. In my example, I tried to find PowerPoint presentations about Webquest. So you can try this, try to Google Webquest file type PPT, and you will see that the majority of resources will include PowerPoint slides. Okay. Also, you can, if you separate numbers by 2 periods without spaces, like in this example, you will get results which contain numbers within a given range, such as dates, prices, measurements, and so on. In this example, I tried to look for resources on Webquests that were published in the last 2 years. Okay, so if you're interested in this topic and if you really want to master your web search skills and master your learners' web search skills, you can consider reading these resources. The first one, it's the link to the Google, to the resource by Google, where you can find more search operators and read how you can use them. Also, there is a nice infographics, get more out of Google, very straightforward with lots of examples. And also you can consider watching this video, how search works, the basics of crawling and indexing, for you to understand what happens behind the scenes. So what happens when once you hit search button. Okay, any questions? No? Okay, let's move on then. Crawling, this is the term used for the web search robots, which are also known as spiders. So basically they crawl the web. They crawl on the internet, and that's how this term appeared. Okay, so you can watch this video, and they explain everything in very simple terms. So this video is not for IT professionals or anything like that, so it's very clear. Okay. So although the spirit and the pedagogy of Webquest haven't changed. In the past 19 years, the main idea of the Webquest model, the tools and resources available on the web have changed have been changed drastically. So the resources and tools available nowadays online can enable more active learning, and they can help you encourage collaboration and conversation, which will be embedded into the Webquest. So the major weakness of Webquest 1.0, like the ones that we've seen with you in the previous examples, is that the design structure provides limited interaction between learners. So sometimes it's zero interaction between students. And the Web 2.0 world is much more welcoming to creation of Webquests, and Web 2.0 tools offer a great opportunity to enhance the Webquest model. So resources offered by the constantly evolving web have given the opportunity for conversation, collaboration, and information exchange. So basically, they transformed the web from a place for information retrieval, as it used to be, into a space for collaboration, conversation, and interaction. A space that's highly dynamic, flexible, and adaptable. So these are the main principles of the adult learning. In particular, internet users can easily build pages, share their photos and videos, interact with each other without having, even without advanced technical skills, right? So the collaborative nature of Web 2.0 tools and applications offer so many opportunities for tasks to be taken to the whole new level. So you can embed Twitter hashtags for your participants to collaborate. You can include YouTube videos, engage learners' participation in voice thread discussions. They can take pictures while working on their task and upload them to Flickr or Picasa albums and share with other participants for further discussions. And the group work and peer-to-peer and student-to-teacher collaboration happens not after the Webquest as it used to be in the Webquest 1.0 model, right? So it's embedded into the Webquest itself, and it's the part of the task completion process. Of course, everything will depend on the Webquest topic and your context and your students' level of comfort with technology. So, for instance, if we take the topic renting an apartment, right, or looking for an apartment, what would you do? What activities would you include into your Webquest? Okay, so looking for an apartment. Let's brainstorm. Brainstorm what this Webquest can include. Okay, any ideas, suggestions? Okay. Classified advertisements, online advertisements, okay. Real estate sites, okay. Searching for the advertisements, great. Okay, so searching Kijiji, online newspapers, ads, rental companies, cost for rent, okay. Talking to the friends, MapQuest, okay, wonderful. Reading about each neighborhood. Okay, perfect. Thank you for your ideas. While working on this presentation, I decided to try what does it feel like to create a web quest, and I created a sample web quest for you to see how it might look like nowadays, not 19 years ago. So I choose the topic looking for an apartment, and you can give your learners first as a introduction. You can give your learners a scenario if they already have an apartment in Canada, or you can they can use their own criteria if they're still looking for a place to live or if they're considering moving. And you can ask your learners to look through online advertisements, as most of you have just mentioned, and choose a few of them for further consideration. They can pin the addresses that they've chosen on the online map and analyze the location, right? So distance to shopping, schools, and so on. They might, the third step might be to analyze the public transit options and traffic issues in the neighborhood. Could they be looking for an apartment for a friend or relative? Sure, they can. Okay, so it's all up to your creativity and your learners' needs. Okay, also they can. Also, I've embedded the Twitter hashtag for participants to interact and to share the resources that they found while working on this task, because sharing is an important concept of the 21st century learning culture. Your learners can leave their comments or just share the links and learn from each other. So by doing this, you will encourage peer-to-peer learning. And the final step can be, for them, can be some kind of the actual real-life task. For instance, they can write an email or call a landlord and ask about features not mentioned in those advertisements. So if you click on this link, you will go to that to this web quest. You will have 3 minutes to explore it, and then come back and share your comments and your suggestions, and think about what else can be done in order to complete this task and make this task interactive and interesting for learners. Okay? So click on this link, explore the activity, and then come back and share your feedback and your suggestions and recommendations. Okay? Type of neighborhoods, okay. Is it a question to me or your suggestion? Sorry. Suggestion, yes, exactly. So you can ask your learners to explore their city or town and if we're talking about online learning, our learners might be located in different cities or even provinces, so they can share the information about their city with other learners. Dialogue with the manager, okay, yeah. So it can be whether a role play, or they can literally call the manager and ask about a few details. Understanding the lease agreement, okay. Yes, for instance, you can give a link to the Google document where you will have a sample lease agreement and ask your learners to comment on those parts that are not clear for them, and you can encourage this conversation to go on and on, so learners will... Actually, you can create another web quest on lease agreements. Information about the neighborhood, okay. Okay, thank you very much for your great suggestions. Now let's discuss where to create your web quest. Okay, we have a new comment. Students could be encouraged to add items to the comparison list that are important to them, such as nearby school, daycare. Yes, actually, I have it there. So if you click on one of the buttons, learners are suggested to complete a comparison chart and to analyze the information that they acquired. One of the main principles of the web quest is not just to read the information available online, but to be able to analyze this information, to work with it, and to use it in order to succeed in completing the task. Okay, but this is a great comment. Thank you. Okay, so I created this web quest using Weebly. It's a tool it's a free tool to create websites and blogs. So basically, you can use any platform you know or you prefer to create your web quest. For instance, Google Sites have the same opportunity of creating a free website. You can use your blog if you have a teaching blog and your learners know where it is. You can do it using a wiki, or you can even use social network websites such as Weebly. Weebly.com. Okay. You can even consider using social networks if you use them, no problem. If you use them for your teaching, such as Facebook or even Twitter. So basically, it's not about where you create your web quest, but how you do this, what activities you include, and how your learners feel about this web quest. You can start with okay, we have a question. Do you think it's easier than Wiki to develop, embed, hyperlink, and edit? Well, I find it a little bit easier than Wikis. But again, it's just my opinion. You can try both and see which one works better for you. Okay, and Wiki, it allows collaboration. So the main purpose of the Wiki is to be collaborative document. So several users can edit, we can modify it, while if you choose Weebly, it will be just you who can modify the content. Okay, it's based on your situation. If you're doing it with your colleague, then it's better for you to consider using Wiki page. If you're doing it on your own, then you can use Weebly. Okay? So you can start even with small steps. You can first create your web quest in a Word document and just email it to your students and see how this model will work for them. And then you can consider exploring new tools and adding Web 2.0 elements into your web quest to encourage the collaboration and to give your learners that opportunity to learn from each other and to interact with each other. Okay? So basically, Webquest, to wrap everything up, Webquest is what an average person does in his or her daily life. So we we do web searches every time we want to make an expensive purchase or go on holidays or write a doctoral dissertation, right? So it's just the way things work nowadays. We are searching for information online. We analyze it and we share it with other people. So 19 years ago, it was the idea introduced by Bernie Dodge and Tom March was a brilliant idea, but the time has changed, and nowadays we can use the same idea, but look at it through the 21st century tools and resources available for us. So you can integrate the same concept into your teaching, and if you do introduce task-based activities to your students, then try to introduce the Webquest model as well as the pre-task activity for them, as the opportunity to as a research opportunity for them to succeed in completing that task. Okay, so do you have any questions or comments? Okay, sure. Can learners write comment on the page? If you decide to use a blog as the main platform for your Webquest, then they can comment on each particular page using blog comments option. If you use Weebly like I did, I didn't have that opportunity because this is a website, it's not interactive, so I embedded Twitter hashtag. So basically learners can tweet about their project and include the hashtag that you've created for them, and then they will be able to see other people's comments on each page, okay? If you like assigning them an activity through the link so they can do on their own time. Sorry, Farnas, I didn't get the question. So basically, yes, if you create an online Webquest, learners can do it whenever they have time, and it can be a self-paced activity. So you can create your Webquest and use it from year to year, and this collection of students' comments will grow, and your learners will be able to use the resources suggested by their peers. Do the website be created by you or from the net? Well, this Webquest looking for an apartment was created by me, and I did it using the Weebly website. Okay, thank you, Ming, for your comment. Okay, great. If you're not aware of Weebly options, you can use any tool that you are comfortable with. As I've already mentioned, you can create your first Webquest can be paper-based. Yes, so it's not about where you do it, it's about how you do it and how you introduce your tasks and activities. If you decide to explore Weebly, it's a very, it has an easy interface, and you can do almost everything within a couple of clicks, and it's very user-friendly. Is there a bank of Webquests available for teachers to access? Yes, there is. If you explore this resource, Webquest, webquest.org. This is the site maintained by Bernie Dodge. He's still working on Webquest and so on. You can find lots of additional resources on what Webquest is and how to create it and so on. There is also a website that helps you create the Webquest, but it's a paid, but they have a paid subscription. So I do not want to talk about this now because these webinars are about free tools. But this tool was also created by Bernie Dodge. But what I want to say that you do not a special website for Webquest to create a Webquest. You can use any tool available online and think about how you can make a Webquest out of it. Like Weebly, it's a tool to create websites. It's not a tool to create Webquests. But you, as you've just seen, you can easily convert it into the Webquest, right? The same is about Facebook page or Facebook group. You can think about how to locate all your resources and steps for your learners if you use Facebook with your students. So there are lots of free tools available there with much more opportunities for collaboration and conversation to embed into the Webquest rather than sticking to the Webquest 1.0 model where you basically have text and links and that's it. Okay. Any other questions? If no question or if anyone is still typing, meanwhile, I would like to say that this webinar is this series of webinars, Teaching with Technology, is the training webinars for our e-volunteers. We have a great team of e-tutors and e-mentors. And if you're interested in learning new perspectives and learning how to teach online and gain new experience, meet new people, and accumulate professional development hours, you can contact me and I will give you more information on our program, and I will be more than happy to answer your questions. Okay? And this is my contact information. Please feel free to email me or Skype me if you have any questions about this webinar. I will try to answer them. And all these slides and the handout materials will be available on our website in the Teaching with Technology blog, so you can check it sometime next week to download the slides and watch the webinar recording. Okay, thank you very much for your active participation, for your questions, and for your ideas. Thank you very much for your feedback. It's my pleasure, and I hope that you decide that you will try to use Webquest with your students. And if you do, please share your experience. You can do this in the Teaching with Technology group on Totala. Okay? Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful weekend. I will see you online sometime in the future. Okay, bye-bye, everyone.